I'd just like to quickly say a little bit about the next piece that Andy's going to read. He somewhat overgenerously calls it a collaboration. I asked a whole range of artists and poets to maybe think a little bit about Tennyson, whose bicentenary is this year, to not commemorate Tennyson as much as that's been sort of done quite well during the year. You know, lots of historical and commemorative things have been organised, but very little which really shows living connection with Tennyson now, and that he still either has some relevance for people, he's still an influence on people, or perhaps the other way around, perhaps they feel his influence is a negative one, but whatever, there is still some sort of vibrancy to Tennyson's work and Tennyson's canon. One of the most delightful pieces which has come out of this has been Andy's reworking of Tithonus, which is probably one of Tennyson's more popular poems, coming in a short sequence of poems about kind of flawed mythological figures, essentially, which Andy has recast in Tithonus 1972.
Just to give a little context to the poem before I begin, if any of you are unaware of what Tennyson attempts in Tithonus, the myth of Tithonus is that he asked the gods for immortality and the gods grant him it. And Tennyson sets Tithonus at the mercy of the gods, wanting to give up his wish. He doesn't want to live forever. He suddenly realises that that's a burden. But unfortunately, the gods don't grant the wish. And so I set the poem 100 years later with Tithonus still living and still pleading. Tithonus 1972. Nothing ever changes. In winter it darkens early. The last chance blues drag across city pavements, less burnt with fervour. Cold scratches the retina. People flare into view, luminaries. The past trailing behind them, silt from a flood, transformed into Arius or Basilica. Breath, cold agate, dries on impact. The time's full of self-interest, protectionism. All remembered as new now in the chance gone by. The stenography of clouds pass, tracing salt winds over outcrops. In a recitative, you return in the life less paid. An aide taps his watch from the shade. A daughter mouths at my back, "Daddy, you're the best." Her confirmation dress phosphorescent in the charry gloom, attentive to the listener's needs. Speech fills up prepared corners like sand, the light threshing over the marsh flats beyond. Only the dark sweat of tankers, left for an horizon, pushed to its limit. Interested in its formal gardens, years ago I visited one of the county's great country houses. Its antechambers lay in darkness, and it was impossible to shake off the musty smell of decayed mortar and lime. Yet along one of its corridors, sealed under glass, worked out from great fidelity, lay a small woven tapestry. Its theme was simple. A Moorish girl laying amongst a meadow. An allegory of time's transience. Sorrel, lamb's cress and fennel, showered in silk. Yet she was not beautiful, nor was she meant to depict beauty. Her limbs strained like an epileptic. Her eyes stitched in the distance like stones. Historians no doubt would dispute this translation of desire, a hybrid of modern mutability. They would, like the cosmos, read to a repository of hewn hands with a single note, recall the girl, the torn flowers, an ocean. But I'm with you tonight, looking back at an old man, A white canvas where the words were. A sudden flight of birds off a rooftop. We do not look at the muddle of shaved bone and incongruities with very much empathy. We don't care if the old man struggles to button up his shirt or tie his laces. It's the same shirt nightly and the same shirt we remember him for. Nothing much has changed with him, we say. If he succumbs to the illusion, his words were like the words when the words made speeches. We laugh a little, forgive him. If he doesn't want forgiveness, we forgive him. If ever he finishes, we clap, as thinly as glass, as if the old man himself were glass, the lectern glass. But he doesn't finish. One dependent clause rolls over into another and then the next. You look up at the vaulted ceiling, gaping like a great yawn, or down into the cuticles of your fingernails, bells, grave mounds. The waves draw back with every breath. Space, working into empty space. Hear the bay horseshoes the unconscious walker. 2 or 3 a year unloose their moorings into the estuary's mouth, tired of abstractions. The distant lights puff up. The wind, printed headlines. Inland. Names exchanged, bodies deposited. Words out of nowhere, from nowhere. Their only guarantor, a whale's wishbone, an abandoned wheel. Cheers.